The story of the prophet Haggai and the rebuilding of the temple after the Babylonian exile. When the people of Judah returned to their homeland, they faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives and their nation. Among the first priorities was the reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem, which had been destroyed by the Babylonians. However, the work on the temple had stalled, and the people had become more focused on building their own homes and securing their own comfort. It was during this time that the Lord raised up the prophet Haggai to call the people back to their spiritual priorities. Haggai's ministry took place in the second year of King Darius of Persia, around 520 BC. The Lord gave Haggai a message for Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, and Joshua, the high priest. Haggai confronted the people with their misplaced priorities, saying, "Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses, while this house remains a ruin?" The people had been saying, "The time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house." But Haggai challenged them to consider their ways. He pointed out that despite their hard work, they were struggling to make ends meet. Their crops were failing, their wages were disappearing, and they were never satisfied. Haggai explained that these hardships were a result of their neglect of the temple. The Lord was withholding his blessing because the people had not honored him. Haggai's message struck a chord with Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the people. They recognized their sin and repented. Within weeks, they began the work of rebuilding the temple. The Lord then sent another message through Haggai, this time offering encouragement. He said, "I am with you," and he stirred up the spirits of the leaders and the people, giving them the strength and determination to continue the work. As the rebuilding progressed, Haggai delivered a third message. He acknowledged that the new temple might not seem as glorious as Solomon's temple, which had been destroyed. But he assured the people that the glory of the new temple would far surpass the old one. The Lord promised, "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house. And in this place I will grant peace." Haggai's final message was directed to Zerubbabel. The Lord declared that he would shake the heavens and the earth, overthrowing kingdoms and establishing his rule. Zerubbabel, as the governor of Judah, was a symbol of the Lord's chosen leader. The Lord promised to make him like a signet ring, a symbol of authority and honor. This message pointed forward to the coming of the Messiah, who would establish God's eternal kingdom. Through Haggai's ministry, the people of Judah were reminded of the importance of putting God first. They learned that their prosperity and well-being were tied to their obedience and faithfulness to the Lord. Haggai's messages brought about a spiritual revival, and the work on the temple was completed in just 4 years. The story of Haggai and the rebuilding of the temple teaches us valuable lessons about priorities, obedience, and God's faithfulness. It challenges us to examine our own lives and consider whether we are putting God first or pursuing our own interests at his expense. It reminds us that when we honor the Lord, he blesses us and fulfills his promises. Haggai's prophecies also point to the greater fulfillment of God's plan in Jesus Christ. The temple was a symbol of God's presence among his people, but Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment of that presence. Through him, we have access to God and the promise of eternal peace. The story of Haggai inspires us to seek first the kingdom of God, trusting that he will provide for our needs and fulfill his purposes in our lives. It calls us to live with faith, obedience, and a heart focused on glorifying the Lord.